Good morning, everybody. 7:21. You're watching the morning show here on Global. Sarah Fulford joins us, editor of Toronto Life magazine. Morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you back. So this is about to hit newsstands. The cover story: Rob Ford's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year. An 8-page tragicomic scrapbook, which kind of does sum it up in a way, doesn't it? But we'll get into the specifics in a minute. But sometimes it feels like it's ripe for the picking. Sometimes feels like a pile-on. Are you afraid that people might see that?
Well, Rob Ford is quite popular. In the article I mentioned that he has 43% of support from the public. So if there was an election tomorrow, he would win. So it is true that there is a tremendous amount of support for him. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, he is a very colorful character. He's very unscripted. He says what he thinks. I think this is an era where even very low-level politicians have press handlers, and people tend to be extremely polished. Mm-hmm. And he speaks off the cuff. He's very raw. He's very much who he is. You don't get a sense that there's a layer of a facade between you and him.
That's the truth.
He kind of lets it rip, and as a result, he's a bit of a spectacle.
Now, it's interesting, the title of the article, at least the front cover, is how he had a very bad year. But that said, he would argue, had a very good year. He just came off another victory last night with the casino vote. He's won all his legal challenges. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that?
Well, his year was really dominated by trying to maintain his job. It is true that he triumphed, but he was bogged down. He's been bogged down in a high number of lawsuits and scandals and real problems from a media point of view. So it is true that he came out the other side of them, but I would say that he's been highly distracted by his own troubles.
It's a bit of a Pyrrhic victory when you can say, "Oh, I won all my lawsuits." Well, you were involved in a whole bunch of lawsuits.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about some of the sections that you detail. You talk a bit about his key players.
So one of the things that's so interesting about Ford is he's quite a divisive figure. Some people see his nakedness in the public eye as a sign of his authenticity. His scandals, his troubles, his brushes with the media tend to endear him to some people who think the media is the villain in this debacle. He has a huge number of loyalists, and they really do circle the wagon. So what we wanted to do in this package, which really takes apart and decodes the whole Ford phenomenon, is look at who his loyalists are. They really circle the wagons when he's in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine any other Toronto mayor gracing the cover of Toronto Life in that way?
Well, we certainly had good fun with Mayor Lastman when he was. Although I would say Rob Ford and Mayor Lastman are very distinct in some ways, even though Lastman also had a habit of putting his foot in his mouth. Lastman was a real city champion, even though he was sometimes a bit embarrassing. But I found him to be very clearly enthusiastic about Toronto, where Rob Ford, I'm never entirely sure what he's really enthusiastic about, although he cares very deeply about football, and football is a bit of a motif in this package. He sometimes slips out of City Hall to go coach football. That seems to be his great big enthusiasm. And to be completely candid, we had a run at David Miller as well. We once ran a giant toilet bowl on the cover of Toronto Life with the cover line "Where Your Money Goes," and that was during Miller's run. In fact, Rob Ford apparently, I haven't heard it from him myself, but I've heard that he attributes his enthusiasm for running to having read that article. He was inspired by the fact that we pointed out how much waste there was at City Hall.
And you've got a collection of photos of Ford caught in the act. What's that all
Ford
about?
has this sort of maybe blessing, maybe curse of being a mayor in the sort of cell phone camera age. So people, and he's a bit of a celebrity. I would say he's the celebrity in Toronto right now. And when people see him, they take out their phone. And sometimes that happens when he's reading while driving, while he's shopping at the LCBO in the middle of the afternoon, when he's slipping out to buy a bag of Kentucky Fried Chicken while he's also doing the weight loss challenge. So he's in the public eye. People take pictures, and the public has sort of taken it almost as a sport of spotting him, uploading it, tweeting it, drawing attention to where he is.
Now, let me ask you about his travels.
Sure.
Well, just let me ask you. I mean, he obviously, when speaking of the public eye,
yes,
he spends not a huge amount of time traveling, but it's obviously an important job for the mayor to represent the city abroad and across this country.
Right.
How do you think that has gone for him?
Well, in some cases it's gone really well. When he went to the Pan Am Games in Mexico, he was received as a bit of a hero, and I think he had a very fine showing there. Then there was his trip to Alberta, which was odd. I think got in his head that he should meet with some mayors of big Albertan cities, so he went first to Edmonton, but couldn't find City Hall. A stranger picked him up in a taxi, and a stranger picked him up in a car, rather, and taxied him over to City Hall, where the mayor wasn't there at the time. He was disappointed. I guess he didn't think to call ahead or make an appointment. He did the same thing then in Calgary 2 days later, where he wanted to meet Mayor Neshy, but he didn't set up an appointment. He just showed up and was sort of disappointed.
You can't make this stuff up.
Well, that's the thing. And in fact, the package overall is really a collection of facts. I mean, we have compiled the most compelling and remarkable and sort of gobsmacking details of his mayoralty to date.
Fordisms to boot.
Right, and it hits newsstands tomorrow. Rob Ford's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Year on the cover of Toronto Life magazine. Editor Sarah Fulford, thank you so much.
Thanks for your interest.
7:27, we'll be right back with